Hi guys, hope wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you've had a sensational day in this beautiful country of ours. I've got a question for you. Are you a parent that's expecting twins or multiples? And or do you actually know anyone that is? If the answer is yes, well, this video is definitely for you. You know, when finding out you're expecting twins or multiples, it's perfectly normal to take a while to get over the complete shock of finding out. But before you can really begin the fun part, I guess, planning a nursery, you have to be able to, I guess, understand a few sort of key things. And that really does depend, I guess, on your personal preferences and the layout of your house. These two things being, the first one, I guess, being when the babies first come home, are the babies likely to sleep in their own room or rooms, or are they going to sleep in your room? And once they've grown up a little bit, are they likely to sleep in their own individual rooms, or are they likely to sleep together? I guess it's your choice, and as we're saying, it's your personal preference. But once you've got those things that are planned, then you can start the fun part, and that's actually starting to plan the nursery. And tonight we're really thrilled to introduce you to one of our partners, Naomi Dorland, and she's the founder of Twinfo, and she's an absolute expert in this space. How are you doing?
Hi, good, thanks, Rach. How are you?
I'm really excited. This is your first interview and chat, so you're really excited to introduce you to the audience. Yay!
I'm excited. It's going to be good.
Yeah. So if everybody watching, Naomi is a mother of fraternal twins, or about 7.5. She's a founder of Twinfo. It's a community for multiple birth families. Twinfo was born out of Naomi's desire to help parents of multiples and to bring together products and services that have been chosen to make life raising multiples a lot easier. So I guess for anyone that hasn't heard of Twinfo before, can you give us a little bit of an overview on what sort of prompted you to start and what the business is about?
Absolutely. So as Rach said, I've got twins. They're 7.5. I've got a girl and a boy. And I'd never even heard the term singleton before I had my multiples. Again, you know, they're not common terms, but then I realised as I was raising my children that you are raising 2, or if you're really blessed, you're raising 3 or 4 children at the same time, babies and children at the same time in a singleton world. And it does add a different layer of complexity. I'm not saying that parents of multiples have it any harder than other parents or anything like that. It's just very different. When you're trying to raise 2 or 3 or even 4 children that have the same wants and needs at the same time, so you do need some certain understanding of what's happening from medical professionals, from allied health professionals, and there's a lot of services and products out there these days that do cater. And I just decided that we needed to tie all that together. I'm a big advocate for multiples, and yeah, I wanted to tie it all together in one place, so people just had one place they could go to get the information that they need.
Yeah, it's really incredible how many businesses start out of the frustration there's actually nothing available in the market for those needs, and it's exactly
absolutely,
which is absolutely brilliant. And we were just talking offline before, and this is just some stats as well, but according to Raising Children Australia, twins happen 1 in every 80 births. This means 1 in 40 Australians is a twin, and the birth rate of identical twins is the same all around the world. So that's roughly like a 1/4 of all births twins. And we were talking before about some stats that you actually have on the Kiddipedia website. So in 2015, according to the ABS, the Australian Bureau of Statistics, there was 4,291 sets of twins, 84 sets of triplets, and a higher order of multiples. So all in all, it's roughly, for twins in particular, it's about 1/4 of 1.4 of all births, which is incredible, really. And so I was going to ask you this question. The birth of twins has sort of been on the rise in recent years. Can I ask your opinion? Can you tell us, has this actually just been due to the rise of families using IVF?
Oh, look, I mean, definitely assisted reproduction definitely has a play in it. And it is, over the last 30 years, the rise of multiples has been recorded and documented. It's not just due to IVF, there's other forms of assisted conception, but predominantly it's actually coming down now to that mothers are delaying having children. And also we've got a rise of different ethnicities happening within Australia, because other different ethnicities have a higher rate of multiples compared to there's a higher European ethnicity rate that have multiples compared to Asians and things like that. But it is predominantly due to the fact that mothers are delaying having children now, and the body kind of sometimes just goes, whoa, you know, let's have several babies at once. So it can take people by surprise, that's for sure, when they find out that, oh, hello, there's not one of you, there's two babies in there.
Oh, well, this is, I guess, a common question. I think any family expecting twins or multiples. But what are some of the very first things that parents should do when they find out they're actually having twins?
Oh, look, you've got to give yourself some time to let it sink in. Honestly, that no matter how prepared you are for anything, how hard you've been trying to have a baby, no matter whatever, when you hear those words that there's 2, 3, 4 in there, I mean, it's life-changing. There's no denying it. There's just really the biggest thing I can say is don't panic. Plenty of women have done, families have done it beforehand. It is very scary, it is intimidating, but there's lots of people out there that can help you. There's the Australian Multiple Birth Association. There's lots of Facebook groups, you know, Twinfo brings together, we've got our own community at Twinfo. There's lots of places out there that you can get help and advice, and the medical professionals will be able to guide you as well into, you know, what's best.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot easier these days than I think in former generations, I think, for families.
Oh, absolutely. The amount of people that I hear stories about now that didn't know they were having twins until they were born, or even triplets until they were born. And people think, oh, yep, here comes the placenta. Oh, no, it's another baby.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I can only imagine that. I mean, I personally did IVF, so I found out at about 7 weeks that we were expecting more than one baby. And it was a little bit hard to come to terms with that to start with, because there wasn't a baby on the ultrasound. There were these 2 little blobs that I was like, okay, you sure they're babies? But apparently they were, and they're now 7.5. And honestly, it's taken me almost that amount of time to get used to it. But yeah.
You know, they always say it gets easier as the children sort of grow older, but does it?
Look, I think I don't know if it gets easier. It just definitely gets different. From all of a sudden, you are literally trying to work out how you are going to carry these 2 babies from one room to another when they're both screaming and, you know, doing the whole classic back arch, you know, trying to carry 2 of those. And if you've got triplets, then it's almost impossible to carry all of them. But then, you know, then suddenly that phase is over, but then they're all crawling and running in different directions. So different stages certainly have their challenges. I can now say that at 7.5 and they're at school 5 days a week, it's easier for me. Whether it is actually easier or not, it just definitely gets different. I can tell you one thing though, I'm absolutely dreading the teenage years. I just can't imagine having.
It'll be here before you know it.
Oh.
And the fraternal feeling a boy too, so.
I know, I'm really worried about how, you know, they're going to have their friends over all the time, and anyway, that's a different story.
So we published your article a little while ago, and the title is Setting Up a Nursery for Twins and Multiples. We've got 3 key questions we're going to ask you which relate to the article, but just really briefly, for someone that hasn't actually read the article, can you give us a little bit of an overview? Yeah,
look, it just covers, in all honesty, setting up a nursery is setting up a nursery, but what it comes down to is if you do need 2 of some things, you need 3 of some things if you've got triplets, but there's some things that you can share. So the article just covers things that what you might need double of, what you might only need 1 of, and gives you a few hints and tips, because let's face it, baby gear is expensive. As soon as it has the tag baby on it, the price seems to go up. And when you need to buy 2 or 3 of the same thing, then you know, you're going to be suddenly forking out an awful lot of money for some things. And particularly if you aren't having other children, you can't pass them down, and you can't hand things on, you can't share things around, because you need both of them at the same time. You can't have 2 babies in one high chair. It doesn't work.
Yes, of course. Well, there's lots of great tips in the article, and the link is definitely in the introduction to this video. But we've got these 3 key questions, so maybe we should get cracking straight into them. Question number 1, where should multiple babies sleep? In your room, in their own shared room, or in separate rooms?
Look, that is really going to come down to your personal circumstances before anything. Before you can even really take your preferences into consideration, you need to look whether you've got room in your bedroom to fit them, whether you do have room to have them both in separate bedrooms and things like that. So it will come down to the layout of your house. You know, the SIDS recommendations are that you do have them in your bedroom to start with. However, that's all good and well if you have one baby, but when you've got 2 or 3 babies, sometimes it's just physically not possible. And plus, babies are pretty noisy things sometimes. And if you've got multiple babies in that room, you may not be getting any sleep. And in today's day and age, with technology, the video monitors and the sound monitors and things like that are quite good. Personally, we did sleep our babies in our room for 6 or 7 months beforehand, but it just will come down to your own personal size and layout of your house and your preferences. One thing is, though, is always check the SIDS guidelines. They're always kept well up to date, and you can just Google those at any time.
Yeah. And we're talking offline before, and you said you're a very active volunteer for the Multiple Birth Association as well. So as you said, it's you know, twins and multiples. I mean, it's just incredible to think that a mother would be sleeping 3 babies in a shared bedroom. But I mean, it's one of those things that I think it would have to make it. Did you find it easier having them in your bedroom for the first?
I did. But I was lucky enough that I breastfed my babies. I actually breastfed them till they were about 18 months old. But having them in the room to start with, particularly as ours were premature, it gave us that peace of mind that they were just at arm's reach for us. But we also had room in our bedroom. We slept ours in the same cot, following the SIDS guidelines, and in our room. And then when they were about 7 months old, we moved them into a shared room, into their own cots, into a shared room.
Yeah. And how does that, just from a sleeping perspective, when one baby wakes and cries in the middle of the night, does that then generally sort of wake the other babies? Is that difficult to be able to manage that?
Look, you'd be surprised. They will actually sleep through it. I think they're so used to having each other in the womb. They share a womb for, you know, up to 9 months. They're used to the little noises and the murmurs and everything that come from each baby. You'd be surprised they don't really wake each other up. I mean, definitely they can do it. Depends how much of a screaming fit that's happening in the middle of the night. But it's no difference, really. I mean, I'm sure, you know, we've all shared a bed with our partner or whatever, and they've got up and gone to the bathroom or something in the middle of the night, and you're completely oblivious to the fact.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, definitely they can wake each other up as well, though. It just depends on the baby. And if you do find that they are waking each other up, then, you know, there is a lot of people will maybe put one in their room, one in another room, if they don't have a room each that they can spare for them.
Yeah. So as you just said, it comes down to the layout of your house and your personal preferences. So, and, you know, I guess it's trial and error as well, maybe as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd just like to say, like, if they are, there's no need, immediate rush to buy all of this stuff straight up. You don't need to go out and buy 2 or 3 cots straight away. Cots are expensive.
Yeah.
And to buy 2 or 3 of them, I mean, always ask if you're going through a baby shop if they do a twin discount or a triplet discount, because most of them do, but you need to ask for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's lots of secondhand cots available. There's plenty of multiple birth buy and sell swap pages out there. Just like if you do buy a second-hand one, you know, it's probably a good idea to buy a new mattress if you can.
Yeah.
And just make sure that the cot's still, if it's a couple of years old, that it still does meet the Australian standards.
It would be great if we could maybe find that SIDS link as well, to put into the comments of the video. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, no problems.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get on to question number 2. You know, what sort of feeding share do you recommend for parents of multiples?
This is the one thing. You are going to be doing a lot of feeding. It's regardless of whether it's breastfeeding or bottle feeding or mixed feeding or whatever, you're going to be doing a lot of it. Besides nappy changing, feeding's the next thing that you'll be doing the most of. Unfortunately, sleep isn't one of those top things that you'll be doing a lot of, but you will be doing an awful lot of feeding. Those beautiful glider rocker chairs, they look beautiful, and, you know, if I had had one baby, I'm sure I would have had one. But if you're going to be feeding at the same time, those beautiful gliding rocking chairs don't really work. What we did is we actually ended up just getting a cheap 2-seater couch.
Yeah.
And it was just perfect. We still use it now. They're 7.5, and we still use it every night to read books on. One of us sits in the middle, and you can still fit a child either side to read a book. Particularly if you are tandem breastfeeding, you need to have a space to lie one baby next to you, where you get one on and attached, and then to lift up and get the other one. So having it level on a couch, the babies are still safe. They can't roll off the side. And if you're twin bottle feeding, it gives you plenty of room on the couch to feed them both at the same time. The one thing that we particularly liked about our twin sofa that we got, it happened to be a single fold-out bed. That's not why we bought it, but it ended up being great because it meant that one of us could sleep in the nursery with the babies at a later stage should we need to, if they were sick or something like that.
And how did you find out? Is that just through trial and error that you found that couch? And/or, I mean, where did you come up with the idea for that then?
Well, I had read about it, I think probably on a Facebook page somewhere. But then when I sort of really thought about it, I thought, you know what, that's what's going to work. And since then, a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people, it just, again, depends on your personal circumstances. We were lucky enough that we would just, like I'm talking about by about 3 centimetres, able to fit it in between the 2 cots in a room.
Yes.
But that was probably more luck than good management, I have to say. But yeah, it is quite common now for people to sort of look at a 2-seater couch, at least to have a good safe feeding area, because it's all about the safety of the babies and about the comfort of the person doing the feeding.
Of course. And like you said, you know, there's lots of these buy spot sell sort of things. You could find a nice secondhand couch somewhere as well.
Absolutely. Look, it doesn't have to be expensive. Yes, we'd all love to give our babies the best and all of that kind of stuff, but honestly, sometimes best isn't brand new. You know, if it's going to cause any kind of financial stress, then look, go for secondhand.
100%. Well, that's a really good tip, I think, as well. Let's get on to question number 3. You know, what do you recommend that new parents of multiples get, start again. Do you recommend that new parents of multiples get bouncers or swings?
Look, it's not a necessity. I think if you have a singleton baby, but I think for multiples, having those kind of things are an absolute necessity. There's so many times where you can only tend to one baby, when you can only, you know, you're holding a baby, you're feeding a baby, you're changing a baby. It's amazing what you can do with that other foot in the background. You know, you can be rocking a bouncer, or you know, or the electric swings are a godsend and things like that. Again, though, you can pick those up really cheaply on the buy, swap and sell pages off Gumtree and things like that. I know for us personally, we had it seemed like an obscene amount of them. I think we had 6 at one stage, because we're lucky enough that we've got quite a large outdoor deck area that's undercover, but I would just leave a set out there so I didn't have to carry them around. Other friends of mine that have had multiples that live in 2-story houses, they're the same. They've got a set upstairs and they've got a set downstairs, because they don't want to be trying to carry, because it's just not safe to carry a baby in the rocker. And when you've got several babies, you don't want to do several trips in and out with the rockers and then go back and get the baby.
Yeah.
The one other big tip that I would have in terms of that is don't buy matchy-matchy. You know, when people have multiples, twins or triplets, you know, particularly if they're, I guess, identical, they do a lot of matchy-matchy stuff. But by getting 2 different types of rockers with different toys hanging on them, different colours and things like that, you can actually use that for that playtime while you're dealing with one child, and it allows you to rotate the babies through the different rockers and things like that, and give you a bit of chance to have some one-on-one time with one, and you can just alternate the others in the different rockers.
And I was going to ask, I mean, with regards to, I guess, planning your nursery, and especially in your instance where you've had fraternal twins, I mean, even with colours and that sort of stuff as well, I mean, how did you decide to, from an interior design perspective, not that it's all that important, but do you have any tips to maybe parents that maybe are expecting fraternal twins? They're like, well, how do we decorate this room so it's nice and even?
Well, we didn't actually know what we were having. We kept I did guess it right. I actually guessed that twin 1 was a girl and twin 2 was a boy, but we didn't know what we were having. So we also did know, though, that they were going to stay in our room to start with. So setting up the actual nursery as such wasn't a huge priority for us because they were going to be in our bedroom for the first few months. In saying that, though, you know, that nesting instinct kicked in and I was quite keen to get it set up. I just chose some fairly gender neutral colours. We went with brown and teal, and we just got some lovely wall decals with some animals on it and matching. I managed to find a brown and teal rug and various things. So we just went with a colour theme as opposed to everything because we genuinely didn't know what gender our babies were going to be. But because they were going to our room for a little while, it did give us a bit of a chance to sort of to pretty it up a little bit when we did find out exactly what gender they were.
Yeah, well, look, you've given us some awesome tips tonight, you know, around, I guess, the start and setting up a nursery. We can't wait to chat to you in the next few weeks with all of the other articles that we've published for you on the website. And just thanks so much for your time tonight. And if anyone's got any questions and they'd like to get in touch with you or learn a little bit more about Twinfo, whereabouts can they find you guys?
Yeah, so our website is just www.twinfo.com.au. The links are all on the Kiddopedia page as well. And then our Facebook page is just Twinfo. You can find us at Twinfo Australia, and same with Instagram and Pinterest.
Awesome, Naomi. Thank you so much for your time tonight, and we can't wait to catch up with you really soon. Take care.
Thanks for having me, Rach.
See ya.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.